What if one voice, even one book, could spark a national movement? In this episode, we revisit a conversation with 2024 Champions for Youth Summit main stage speaker Marley Diaz, an activist, author, at the time 19 years old, and founder of the Thousand Black Girl Books Project. She's reimagining what it looks like to empower youth through visibility, advocacy, and purpose. How a small, simple school project sparked a wave of change beyond the classroom. One that's not only changing whose stories are told, but who gets to tell them. We talk about the intersectionality of representation and youth mental health, what it means to show up in person, and how young people, especially young Black girls, are reclaiming their power in classrooms, community, and culture. This is her story. We're meeting with real leaders shaping a healthier future for our young people. We dig into what motivates them and how their work makes a difference. I'm CJ Sturmer, and this is the Champions for Youth Podcast. Hi, Marley. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Marley, we talk a lot about representation, and you have an incredible initiative that you've done to provide representation for young Black girls in literature. I want to start by asking, how did it feel growing up that there was this lack of representation?
Yeah, growing up, I did experience a lack of representation in the books I was reading, but primarily those that I was assigned in school. And I think that's kind of the reason, the impetus for starting 1,000 Black Girl Books, this book drive to collect 1,000 books of Black girl protagonists, was not because I didn't see myself represented, but actually because I noticed the disparities in confidence and academic kind of behavior and confidence in the classroom between me as a Black girl who did see myself and knew about the Angela Davises and the Madam C.J. Walkers and the Naomi Campbells and had access to those stories, and then other Black girls in my classroom who didn't have access to those stories and were insecure about wearing their natural hair, didn't, thought about their experience as a Black girl as either, similar to Rosa Parks or Harriet Tubman, and saw those as the bounds of who they could be. And I think the reason why I wanted to start 1,000 Black Girl Books wasn't really just because of myself and my own experience, but just knowing that I wanted to have that army behind me. I wanted to have that community of other girls and other Black girls who would support and understand our possibilities. Because I'm not interested with the work I'm doing in being the exception, but I'm really interested in creating a new norm. The idea that any kid can be the leader. Any kid can be the pretty girl, the jock, the superstar, whomever it is, and really trying to expand our idea of who counts in classrooms and who counts in stories in schools.
You speak a lot about your activism, and it really shows through the work that you're doing, and it really comes through in our conversations. Talk to me a little bit about why is it so important for you to have that voice, for you to present the voice of activism for your community?
Activism is really important at the community-based level and important for me because I think it's not necessarily like this political career or like esteemed position that it sometimes is framed to be, but really more of a responsibility. And I think I've learned from watching my mom, who started a nonprofit called the Grassroots Community Foundation in 2010, with to no media avail, to no, increase in followers on Instagram, to just really be doing the work in the community, that there is something beautiful about service because it gives you the opportunity to show the best of who you are. And the reason why I do the work that I do is obviously to support my community to advance this goal, but it's also created such a beautiful opportunity for me to follow my passions and to say hey, if you want to work on a Netflix show at 15, you can executive produce a Netflix show at 15. If you want to write a book at 12, you can write a book at 12. If you want to be the youngest person in Forbes 30 under 30, you can be the youngest person at Forbes 30 under 30 at 12. You can go to Harvard. You can do whatever you want. So the reason why activism is important is because it gives kids the opportunity to stand up and to exhibit their full selves in their community. So the choice to continue doing this work isn't because I'm interested in necessarily the passing of a specific legislation or that there's some end goal in mind, but really that there's something just beautiful about me getting to exist in the world, being my true self, and really hoping that young kids see that as a sign that we will be okay, and that if you make the same choices to be brave, you will be better.
Are there any specific times or examples that you can think of when this activism, this voice that we're creating, or even representation in literature, when have you seen that be really impactful?
One of my favorite and more recent examples is for my 19th birthday this year, I took my friends to Jamaica to give away some books to some kids. So I take my friends in a van. We drive out at 7 in the morning. It's me and my mom and maybe 6 other of my closest friends. And we go to Retreat St. Mary Primary School, the primary school where my mom attended, her mom's mom attended, and where I donated the first 1,000 books that I ever collected. So to come back, I've been one more time previously by myself, but to come back with my friends, like from Harvard, some from home, with my mother. And to watch the excitement of like both the kids seeing me again that went to that elementary school and the excitement of them seeing my friends, like this diverse group of folks giving away books with Black girls as the main character, talking to them about reading, watching them be like, oh, y'all, you go to Harvard? Like they're Jamaican kids, like, you go to Harvard, you're smart.
Yeah.
Like watching them see not only me as like a Black girl that goes to the school, but then like I have some of my friends who are like Black boys with locks down to here. And then we have people who are, you know, like Asian girls, Black girls, like all my friends come from such different backgrounds. And to watch them be playing the books, like picking kids up, you know, seeing these kids be like, wow, like I didn't know that you weren't the only person that cared about this. And that there are really thousands of people out there that want me to have access to these stories, that care about, that view reading as fun, and also that benefit from having access to these stories. Because I'm watching my friends talk to these kids and be like, yeah, I met Marley a couple years ago, and now I like to like, now I'm here, now I'm doing, you know, so this social action stuff at school, like to see the impact and the excitement that my work can bring, not only to my friends, but to like very young kids who are interacting with the idea of diversity, but not only with Black girls, if that makes sense. Like having people that don't look like them, providing them with stories, I felt like was such a beautiful moment to be like, wow, like the power of this mission really extends beyond identity. It is more than just like the creating of the mirror between me and these other people, but really that we can build a world where reading is celebrated and where like my friends can simultaneously have the most fun they've ever had on this trip to Jamaica and also have the most impactful experience of like reading to kids in rural Jamaica on the top of like the most beautiful mountain in the world. Like seeing those simultaneously shows just really proved to me that there's such multitudes for the power of this work and like what it can do for people.
How does that feel for you to like see so many years of so much work going to it and all these efforts and the voice that you've had just carry so far? Like, what does that feel like to actually like see that all come to life?
It feels amazing to watch 1,000 Black girl books grow. I mean, it's a really crazy thing. I'm like, I can't believe that I'm only 19. And I think like the sky is truly the limit for what this work could do, either for me or for other people. And I think just down the line, I'm so excited by all the parents and by the kids that I meet that feel mobilized by this work. And I'm really interested in creating a world for a lot of these post-pandemic students who really struggled. I'm really concerned about the ways that students struggled from 2020 to 2022, and trying to create and bring back this culture around reading has been so much more successful than I could have ever imagined. And the way that my work has been supported and amplified post-pandemic really makes me excited for some of the changes, either through the National Education Association or like getting to work with Versace now. Like there is all the ways that culture and books and representation are spreading out in my life just makes me so excited for what that can do for me, but then like who comes after me? Like if I'm the first person to be doing this, there's going to be someone that is so much cooler, so much more confident, so much more ready to battle all these things. And I'm just excited. I'm excited for them and for hopefully a community to be behind me by the time that all of this is said and done.
I want to talk a little bit about the importance of mental health, especially for young Black girls, and that intersectionality with health overall. How does storytelling and the ability to have that voice for young girls be able to combat mental health issues and to build a stronger, I guess, just presence for their self-being?
Storytelling is incredibly important in the development of positive mental health practices. And I think for me, thinking back on like, I'm still a teenager now, but in my preteen years, especially when that kind of early divide between realizing that you don't want to tell maybe your parents about everything you're going through, or you're discovering parts of your identity or yourself that you aren't as comfortable with. Storytelling, either through books, through movies, through music, through poetry, has always given us the power to understand ourselves and to re-understand ourselves. And to say that, hey, maybe the things that I've labeled as weird, which for me was like, I'm left-handed. I used to suck my thumb until I was like 10 years old. Like then I read a book called Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson, and she sucked her thumb until she was 12 years old. So I'm like, hey, maybe I'm not that bad. Like maybe I'm not the worst. So it can go down to like the small things of really allowing us to eliminate insecurity. And then it can also move into the bigger things of saying like, this person fought through, when you read a story, like this person fought through 10 times the amount of obstacles I did, and now they're alive to tell the story, and they live with this joy and this hope, and they've been able to transmit that to me, that it really does transform people. And even as I was walking like into this room, I was stopped by someone who heard our conversation and said that she read Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson, the same book that inspired me to start 1,000 Black Girl Books. And she was like, I started a book club for my kids because of it. I read, we now do a monthly meetings. We love books because we read this one story. And she's a, 50-plus-year-old woman who read this a couple of years ago and is now I want to be buried with this book, was what she said to me. And I feel the same way of knowing that these stories transmit, they have power. She had never met me before, and yet she also read Brown Girl Dreaming and also started a book club and is also now expanding that story to other Black girls. It gives me the power, shows us the power of storytelling to promote and create these ways to engage with the story and also to engage with each other and hopefully rebuild some of our mental health.
You are so inspiring.
Thank you so
just
much.
Really are. The way that you speak about what's important to you, the way that you not only provide representation for a specific community, but the way that you just speak with passion. You can tell that it is very much a part of who you are as a person. And I think being able to show that to the world is infectious, not just for young people, but I think it's also important that for adults and all humans to understand that it comes in all sizes, shapes, forms, colors, ups, downs, insides and outs, that being able to have that passion, it just rolls off onto other people. What has the experience been like? Have you seen similar effects when you share that passion with people? What do you get back from that?
I get so much back from sharing my passion for books and for reading, whether it's kids dressing up as me for Halloween, which always makes me cry and is my favorite thing, or it's parents starting book clubs in their homes, or it's schools rewriting their curriculums and students starting new libraries. I've gained the entire world, I feel, from starting 1,000 Black Girl Books. And what I feel most, and what I think I'm most grateful for, is really the fact that instead of considering my successes as regardless of her race or regardless of her gender or regardless of her age, she does these things, it's actually with mind to her Blackness, with consideration of her girlhood, thinking we consider all of the parts of my identity in the work I do. It's not pushed onto people as the only reason why it's important, but I really appreciate this kind of reframing of okay, the parts of who we are do matter. And it's not about the regardless of race, color, creed, whatever. It's actually about value your story and seeing people understand and be informed by my perspectives and also have the willingness to extend that into their own experience. So let's say you're not a Black girl and then being wow, I also know what it is to not feel seen. I appreciate the ways that empathy has really been core at my campaign, and that, Black people are only 13% of the population in the US. And yet I have so many allies from other communities that make this an international movement. It is not just about the Black women that support me, but it really is critical that people who don't look like me are the people that are understanding and are driving this. So I appreciate the way that I've still been able to achieve universality in what my work means without having to say, forget that I'm Black, forget that I'm a girl, forget that I'm a student. No, I'm a 19-year-old Black girl from West Orange, New Jersey, studying at Harvard, who does these things. And that's pretty awesome. And there are probably a lot of other kids who can insert all these different identity categories that are willing and capable to do the same thing I did. So I love that about my work.
Yeah, I love that about your work too. What's next? What is next for you? You've done so many great things, so much ahead of you. I know you're in school. We're obviously going to finish school. We have to do that.
Get my degree.
Yeah, you need the degree for sure. The degrees. I see multiple degrees in our future. What's next for you?
I think what's next for me and the work I'm doing is kind of trying to get more into the intellectual parts of what I do. I've had so much fun doing stuff around fashion and culture and art, and I love all of those things and I want to maintain that. But I also go to Harvard. I'm also people don't realize I'm pretty smart. I mean, maybe they do realize, but I think I have a lot more in me about sort of I'm really interested now in building academic arguments about why we need to include books in schools. So I was recently awarded with the Obama Foundation's Voyager Scholarship. So I'm receiving some funding to do some research on book banning this summer and on navigating racial histories in the context of London and South Africa and the US, and trying to compare them and see the ways that we failed to reckon with our racial histories. And that for me, in receiving the scholarship, is sort of the impetus or a beginning of the next chapter of saying that the idea of who I am as an influencer or as a public figure, who I am as an activist, and who I am as a student could all come together to create something. So I'm really interested in figuring out the ways that the art world and media, media as an industry and media as a tool, can be combined with academic research to create these solutions. I hate the way that this rhetoric has been used, but I'm very much a facts over feelings person. And I very much believe in the power of social science research as social science research is what taught me that 1,000 Black Girl Books was a problem, was seeing how little books were published about Black characters. And I want to bring back the research and start making it more accessible to people, because it is what will actually change our legislation. It is what will actually get things moving towards a more positive direction, I feel, because unfortunately, this country has never recognized the pain of oppressed groups as like a reason to change something. If we did, like, we would see a lot more change. So we need to make sure that we have like the evidence of what is this doing to us economically, test results. Like, I want to break it down to give people like the bam, you can't deny that this is like terrible idea. So that's what I'm going to spend like my next 5-ish years, is really my goal of like, how can we empirically prove all of these things that I'm so passionate about are disadvantaging the next generation of students? And what can we do through arts and culture to change that?
So it's like, boom, now say something.
Yeah, like now say it's like you actually like we actually have the test results of saying these districts with diverse books perform better than these districts that don't. Like, I want to draw those comparisons because, like I said, this post-pandemic learning is going to expose all of those disparities, because it really is a situation of the haves and the have-nots. Like, the haves got educated and the have-nots did not. And I know that there will be research to support the idea of like the ways that we saw inequity infect our classrooms.
In public health and folks that work with the foundation and other initiatives, sometimes on a very local level, sometimes few access to resources, people, that kind of thing. How can we take this idea and this movement, the power of representation, to the people trying to do the work? How do we empower them to think differently?
Yeah, the situation of like limited resources, limited access is so salient and is such a problem. And the only way I'll raise that and say is educators face the same problems and they've been able to come up with these really creative solutions. So I think it can be the mixing, the kind of combination of the dual forces of public health and education. So instead of using, as much as we love our digital platforms, we love digital storytelling, I think showing up in physical space in schools with young people, promoting intergenerational exchange, doing the little things to just show up and be the mirror for young people is like, there are so many kids that could also be interested in going into and solving similar problems, but because they don't know that these jobs exist, because they don't know that there's a you or a me or any of the folks that are in the conversation today, they aren't able to aspire to that. Simply because they just don't know that it's possible. So even if you might feel stressed about your current objectives, we know that change is never going to stop. And sometimes the best thing you can do is mobilize somebody else to want to be the change, even if you feel like you can't. So let's say your budget may be low, you might be spent, but if you can mobilize someone else to do a good deed, that equates in my mind as the same amount of effort as it takes for you yourself to do the deed, if that makes sense. So doing the work to create those mirrors, showing up in physical space and actually talking to a kid and saying, I was just like you and I had no idea what I was going to study in school. I had no idea where I was going to go with my life. And now I'm here with you. Anything you want, I actually believe you can actually achieve it.
Yeah.
Saying that to people makes a big difference. And saying it in physical space makes an even bigger difference.
It's a really good point. Showing up in the physical space. Marley, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for showing us the power of storytelling and the power of advocacy and showing up when it really matters in person, in physical space.
Exactly.
So I appreciate you taking the time for us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
A huge thank you to the Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth and Prevention Connections for their support. And thanks to Mauricio Reyes for creating that great music score. Don't forget to share this with others, because the only way we can make real change is if we do it together. And hey, if you like today's conversation, go ahead and give us that 5-star review. Now go out there, everybody, go do good. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.